All right, so I see that we're getting a few folks joining us. We'll give a few more minutes.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Good.
And Chiho, we have you as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll just go ahead and get started. And as we have some folks come in, we'll get you all in the chat. So we did put a poll here. So if you look to the right, there's a poll that says, have you heard of LALF? So we're inviting you to please go ahead and fill out that poll, or just, oh, did I publish it? No, not yet. That goes at the end. All right. So if you wouldn't mind just doing that poll as we are waiting to greet a few more folks as they come into the room.
It's still not published. Is there a red button at the bottom of the screen? Or, yeah, there you go. Perfect.
There we go. It's there. Wonderful. All right, we're about 3 minutes in, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome to everyone. So you are at our 7 o'clock session, which is the LALF Forum, or the Louisiana Advocacy Leadership Force. And this is a forum just to kind of let us all know a little bit more about what LMEA is doing in the realm of advocacy. So my name is Ginny Medina-Hamilton, and I'm the chairperson for our LALF team, or our advocacy force here. And with me on our forum is Chiho Feindler and Matt Barusch. We'll talk a little bit more with them in a moment. So our outcomes for today's session is we're hoping that by the end of this session, participants will know the work that has been done by LALF so far and what is planned for the future. Additionally, we hope that our participants will contribute their ideas as invested stakeholders in LMEA and NAfME regarding next steps for our advocacy team. And finally, that participants can make informed decisions about their future participation or contribution to advocacy through LMEA. So that's what we hope that you'll get out of this session. Again, it's a forum, it is a conversation, and we're asking that you please use the chat as we move forward, and maybe later we'll have that opportunity to allow some friends to speak with us and ask some live questions. So if you notice in the chat, Chiho's started some conversation there. So you may want to keep that open as you work on the poll and look at the chat, and go ahead and put some of that information in. So that kind of covers our web jam rules, using the using our chat for questions, and also letting us know who you are. So we'll get to the history of this advocacy team soon, but just a little bit more about your panelists today. So again, my name is Ginny Medina-Hamilton, and I'm serving as the chairperson for the Louisiana Advocacy Leadership Force. And we are a new part of LMEA, or at least a new organized part of LMEA, and are very much affiliated and work closely with NAfME and their advocacy leadership force. I personally, so I've been a member of LMEA for over 20 years as a choir director and music educator, later on as a supervisor for arts education, and now as a principal. So I've run the gamut in lots of roles, and enjoy that time, and then being able to use some of that experience to chair this committee. So next, I'd like to introduce Matt Baruch. So he's down there. Wave to us, Matt. So Matt is a resource and an integral part of the development of LALF through his experience with state music education associations and his role at NAfME. So I just want to hand it over to him for a moment so he can tell us a little bit more about himself and what he does at our national level.
Thank you, Ginny. I appreciate the introduction. And hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's session. My name is Matt Baruch. I am the State Advocacy Engagement Manager for the National Association for Music Education. I am a member of NAfME's public policy team, and I'm sure you're familiar with our work, where Lynn, Rob, and Tushar handle largely the federal aspect of NAfME's advocacy. I work on the state level and assist the state music education associations and act as a consultant support resource to help you and your state MEAs accomplish your advocacy objectives and your policy goals. I have been involved in state government relations for over 6 years now, and it's been an absolute pleasure to get a chance to work with LMEA and with Ginny and LMEA leadership to start this fantastic venture in the LALF, which is one that I hope to see pop up in more states across the country very soon. So look forward to answering your questions, look forward to talking with you more about advocacy in this session and in the Sunday session I'll be doing as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. So next, our next panelist is Chiho Feindler, and she's a resource and partner in music education in Louisiana through the Save the Music Foundation. So Chiho, would you tell us a little bit more about you and your work here in Louisiana?
Yes, hi, nice to see you all. My name is Chiho Feindler. I'm a Senior Director of Programs and Policy for Save the Music Foundation. We're based in Manhattan, although I haven't seen my New York City office since mid-March, like anybody else, and I'm sitting here from my Northern New Jersey home office. And we are a not-for-profit organization that donates instruments to public schools. And we have a pretty deep and long history with our work in Louisiana, where we have been giving instruments since really the Katrina time in New Orleans. And also, most recently, we have provided to all of the K-8 schools in St. John the Baptist Parish in the greater New Orleans area, the musical instruments where the district actually supported music teachers. So they did not have any music teachers in the K-8 levels at the time. And then with our instruments, they since then hired at least 10 full-time music teachers position, and we're very proud of that work. And we're now in New Orleans, working very closely in the Orleans Parish School Board and the very complex system of the charters, and then making the grants there. Our work actually, and then the why I'm here is that it's the very reason of those the two great people that I get to share the panel with is the reason why we're here. I actually had an absolute pleasure of meeting with Scotty Walker and Brett Babineau and their executive team 2 summers ago, I believe, at the NAfME National Assembly. And I had this really immense pleasure of going to some of the Louisiana elected officials' offices to advocate for music education for Louisiana teachers. And I'm just so happy to be here. And thank you so much for letting me be part of your conference.
Thank you, Chiho. All right, so we're just going to talk a little bit about where LALF started. So we have looking at the poll, 42% of you have said yes, you've heard of LALF, and 57 said no. There's only a few of us in here, and that's okay. So we'll just tell you a little bit more about it. So Scotty Walker and Brett Babineau have been talking about working on this advocacy leadership force for a while, and since they've taken into leadership with LMEA. And during our stay-at-home order earlier this year, they were able to gather a lot of interested LMEA members and kind of start putting people together and say, okay, this is something we want to do. How are you guys interested in this? And we knew it was kind of the fire, that said, okay, this is something we've always wanted to do, but if we don't do it now, we might come across some major issues later because of the pandemic and how that affects music education. So it was the pandemic was that little bit of a boost that got that idea moving a little bit faster and stronger. And so we want to, really do appreciate our LMEA staff, our leadership, putting this together. So lots of members met several times during that stay-at-home order. throughout all of that, that leadership team worked with Matt and, you know, and other resources in creating our 4 pillars, which is kind of the 4 big areas that the leadership force, the advocacy leadership force was going to work on. Also, you know, as Matt told you, he's worked with, you know, so many state MEAs, and it was a great resource for us to be able to see what other states were doing with their advocacy leadership force. And there are other brand new advocacy groups in some states, and some that have been around a very long time, some that have been instantly successful, some that have been, you know, working hard to get the little bit of success that they've had. And so it's been a wonderful resource to have him and learn from other states and where they are. So with that, you know, we kept on meeting, and then there was a core group of members who wanted to really continue that work. And through that, we've kind of developed that leadership within the advocacy force. And I was selected, elected, voluntold, something around there to be the chairperson, which I was more than happy to accept. I you know, I really believe in this cause and glad to be part of that and helping our group kind of continue to move forward. So our next section is about what have we done so far. So yes, this started at the stay-at-home order. And, you know, for those of us involved, sometimes we're thinking, oh, we've got so much going on, so much going on, so much going on. And it's, you know, as we all know, as teachers and as musicians, you know, we're always rehearsing. And people don't realize what we're doing until you see that final concert, right? And then they don't realize how many months of rehearsal you put into it. Well, the same thing happens with any committee or any work like this. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes that maybe that final result isn't as evident and as big a production to everyone, but a lot of work was put in by so many members. So I'd like to share a little bit of that. So our 4 pillars, the first of our 4 pillars is the advocacy training pillar. And in this one, the idea was to really educate or provide opportunities for our LMEA members to be educated in how to advocate for themselves, for their programs, for their districts, for their schools, and, you know, for music education statewide. So some of the things that have happened with that, you know, we've been working with Matt and, you know, like I said earlier, figuring out what's going on in other states. This LMEA conference is one of our first outreach programs to our membership and some of the things that we can do. Our Scotty, Brett, and myself were part of a webinar, a national webinar with NAfME about some of the MEAs that have advocacy organizations and what they were doing. And we were there as the infants who were toddling in and saying, this is what we've done so far, and very excited about the progress that we have made in that short period of time. But it was also wonderful to hear from other people and to answer those questions that we were getting from other members throughout the country. For advocacy training as well, working, that kind of leads us, I should say, right into communications, which is one of our other pillars. So advocacy training is one pillar. Second pillar is communications. That includes our social media campaigns, the Louisiana Musician. So if you guys have noticed on our Facebook page, we now have 2 Facebook pages. We have the membership page, and then there's an LMEA outreach page. And that is reaching out to the general public about the things that LMEA is doing. Instead of, you know, Facebook for membership is wonderful in that we're using that to communicate to our membership and what we're doing. But an outreach page reaches so many more folks, and it lets us be able to go out there and say, this is what we are doing as an organization, and this is what we are doing to promote music education. This is why we think it's important, allowing former students and parents to also join us, stakeholders of music education to join us in this advocacy, because we can't do it alone. We can't do it alone, and being able to get all of those interested parties and stakeholders in working with us side by side is what's really going to be the force that moves forward. We all work in schools. We know that parents, an organized group of parents, is a very strong force to reckon with. And if we can help organize our parents into a very positive advocacy force for music education, then, you know, we've got a good army there with us. So we've seen the social media campaigns. You've seen the Louisiana musician. We've seen on our NAfME site, there's been, some mentions of what we're doing here in Louisiana. So that's also great. Our third pillar is called stories, and it's very similar to our communications, but it's got a very different kind of focus. Our stories pillar, you'll see, and Chiho probably put this in the chat if she hasn't already. It's what music means to me, and you've probably seen this on our Facebook and also in the on our website. So it's stories from past students, past teachers, present students, and what impact has music education had on the lives of all of these people who have experienced music education in Louisiana. And it's that very human and humane side of what we do. It's the touching of who we are inside and out of music, not just, hey, music makes us all smarter. Yes, we know, but what life impact are we also giving? So we have to be able to really reach our audiences on different levels. Different people are going to hear it different ways. So communicating data is one thing, and then communicating through personal stories is another. So, and I think, Chiho's going to put some stuff up on the chat so that you can see, where some of those stories are presently housed, and how you can also put your story in, or maybe the story of a student, a former student, or a parent that that can add to that. And then our fourth pillar is the government relations pillar. Now, this one may be one, it's kind of a difficult one, but it's one that this is the pillar that I work on the most. And it's one that I have seen, I'm able to speak to a little bit more to, and know that it is, we've really made some strides here. So I'm going to back up a little bit on government relations, and just a little history that we all know, or you may, hopefully, you may not know, that we've always had a music supervisor or an art supervisor in the Louisiana Department of Education. Back in the day it was Martin Sotil, then it was Richard Baker. And then, there was a reduction in force, and that position was eliminated. So we have not had a representative to advocate for arts education and music education at the Louisiana Department of Education for several years. And this is, it was something that we were kind of used to having, I think, having that voice. And I know that music supervisor was always a part of LMEA, was always published in our LMEA, in our Louisiana musician. It was someone who came to our conferences and knew what was going on. And all of a sudden that connection was severed. And that's when, we realized, okay, now we need an advocacy leadership force more than ever, and noticing that we didn't have that work. So during this pandemic, and knowing that we had to make some strides quickly, or we might lose the grasp, the loose grasp that we already had on music education, we kind of reached out to a few other folks, and that's with the help of Matt and Chiho, getting us some connections with other people that they've worked with here. So, and also with connections from those in our leadership force. So, through Richard Baker and Rebecca Holmes and Jessica Fain and Leah and all the folks in our group, we were able to reach out and get some more connections. So now I'll get to what we've done in our government relations. So one of the things that we started off is meeting with Sonia Robinson, and Chiho tell you a little bit more about her group. And as we get there, Sonia has a wonderful connection to so many arts educators in the state, and especially in New Orleans, Baton Rouge area. And we were able to meet Scotty and myself and Brett with leaders in the arts from all over, and all the arts in the state, and meet with representatives of the First Ladies MAAM Initiative. So with her as well, and have that conversation about the impact that the pandemic was having on arts education in Louisiana. So that was a very powerful conversation, which then led to some more connections. The MAAM Initiative that the First Lady has is music and movement. And so it is one of, if you listen to the first, the keynote speech at the beginning and her introduction is about her dedication or her commitment to music and movement education in our schools. So being able to have her, advocate for us is phenomenal. Then, of course, as you know, when we moved from phase 2 to phase 3, and then all of a sudden the phase 3 requirements for music education changed from the first day we were in phase 3 to the second day we were in phase 3, and then everyone freaked out, and then our leadership really took hold of that and said, wait, this is what we need to do. And Scotty and Brett and other members of our leadership went to the Louisiana Department of Education and moved forward and made a difference in what was going on, and more or less fixed it and made it right for us. So this advocacy leadership and the government relations is one that's we say it's hard to break into, but I think we've made some strides with some wonderful connections with our resources. Through our membership, and then also through Chiho and Matt to kind of help us get in the door and work. And then our MAAM Initiative ambassadors, there is the music ambassadors is one of our LMEA members. That's Mickey Smith. So it's great to have him as that liaison as well. Okay, I know that's a lot of talking, but just to recap, we have our 4 pillars, which is advocacy training, communication, stories, and government relations. So I'm telling you that again, so that those of you who aren't already members of LALF can kind of start thinking about, I might want to be part of this, or I have something to offer, or, I'd like to learn more about this, because we really, this is a very inclusive organization, and we want as many people as we can helping us and helping each other move forward with our mission for advocacy, music advocacy in Louisiana. So what are our hopes for the future of each of those? So we have some pretty, there's the dreaming big, right? We've got these small steps that we had to kind of take care of business right now, but there's some big ideas. And the advocacy training is making advocacy an integral part of all of our professional learning for our music educators, so that they have the tools that they need to be able to go to administration or school boards and parents to be able to give them the information that they need in order to appropriately advocate for the programs that we need. Communications is to keep that open, of course, and there's trying to see if anyone in our group, you can put it in the chat, if you are a member of either the communications or stories pillar and would like to speak, we would definitely love to hear from you. So, you can let me know if you're there. Our stories are going to continue on their collection of what music means to me and being able to publicize those. And in government relations, one of our goals, and this is a big one, but it's an important one, is to again have representation of music education in our Louisiana Department of Education, to have someone who is assigned, and it's their job to speak for music and arts education at the Department of Education. So those are some of our big items right now. Of course, there's more to it, but those are kind of our big items. So I want to take a breath and allow some questions in the chat room. So I'm gonna.
So Ginny, if I can just speak briefly to the importance of the LALF and what you guys are doing. This coalition that LMEA has built, it is on the cutting edge, I think, of what a lot of states have been doing in their advocacy efforts. There are some states that have smaller committees, some states that only appoint like a chair or a government relations, somebody who's responsible solely for advocacy, or, you know, the board will kind of take it on themselves. But a notion of the LALF, which is modeled after the NAfME's Advocacy Leadership Force, is the idea of putting together a coalition that is representative of all parts of the state, right? Because one of the things that when you're advocating with a state lawmaker or, you know, an elected official, they want to hear from their constituents, and they want to hear those personal stories that Ginny, you talked about as part of one of the pillars of the LALF. And I think it's important to note how these pillars kind of feed into each other, where, you know, the stories are kind of the internal communication, right? And that helps frame the message for the communications pillar, which is the external communication. And the advocacy training pillar helps prepare people to be able to communicate that message. And the government relations pillar helps us build those relationships to be able to get our message through, right? So they all kind of work together. You know, I think it's very important that members of LMEA know about the incredible work that the LALF is doing and become interested in and take part in it, because, you know, there's this Washington speak that goes around here in DC that says, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And in this time, in this, you know, pandemic era, it's more important than ever to be at the table. You know, their states are going to have to make some very difficult decisions within the next few months. And those decisions will almost inevitably affect education on some level. And with the work of the LALF, we're able to, you know, work towards ensuring that students continue to have access to quality music education at a time when they need it more probably than ever before. So, you know, this at LALF is about empowering you, the LMEA member, to become an advocate for your profession and for your students, and to continue to ensure that they have that education and the social emotional learning benefits that go with it. You know, because if you don't take an active part in protecting that for your students, then who will? So I think, you know, this is an excellent thing that LMEA is doing. I think that we are, you know, and us at NAfME, we're very excited to see this unfold and to hopefully see it spread all across the country.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm just going to take just a moment to show you a little bit of the documents and some of the things that we have here. This is our Google site. It's not really a website of information. It's more of a hub of where we keep our documents for our advocacy leadership force. It's a workspace for the members. It can take you to the LMEA website. But some of our guiding documents, and, you know, thank Pat DeVille for putting some of these together. The LMEA Advocacy Blueprint is here. This was all done. If you want to really see it, you just click this little pop out and you can see everything. LMEA activities. So this is activities and contingency plan. This has to do with, you know, part of the pandemic. Then some NAfME advocacy resources, and this is just linking to the NAfME site. You can, of course, find all of this on the NAfME site. And then some of our documents, our agendas, the conference proposal, which you'll see what we did here, and then our report. Some of that was already in the Louisiana Musician. This is kind of some of the work that we've done and our next steps. And then, you know, agendas. So this is just some of the work that we have here. You're welcome. This is not any sort of secret site. So you're welcome to take this website and check it out whenever you'd like and see kind of what's some of the work that we're doing. It's exciting, you know, for us to be such a young group that is, you know, getting a few of these things done. So kind of putting us in that spot. All right. So our next section, I lost my camera? Yep. Maybe I'll just share my screen again. Let's see. All right, so I'm just going to talk to the next section, and then when I switch it over to Chiho, I will readjust my camera. Our next part of our session is actually our call to action, and this is for all LMEA members. So we're going to ask, Matt's going to talk to us a little bit about the state budget and that committee, and Chiho's going to talk to us a little bit about working through other organizations. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Matt. Let him talk a little bit about that. I'm going to get my camera back working. And then after Matt, Chiho will talk a little bit about all the other types of organizations that are resources for us. All right. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Ginny. Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that, obviously due to the pandemic, state revenues have been in a very precarious position. A lot of states are going to have to make very difficult decisions going forward. And education budget cuts have already happened during this year for the fiscal year 2021. State legislatures, including Louisiana, I believe, will start to convene early next year. And without anticipating any additional federal funding, then legislators are going to have to come back and utilize revenue forecasts that do not include any additional stimulus funding. And so those calculations are going to inevitably necessitate, in some states, absolutely necessitate education budget cuts. And so one thing that you as LMEA members can do from now until that time is participate in our nationwide state budget campaign. And so I'll share my screen briefly to show you what I'm talking about here. So here, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. There we go. Okay. So here we have our nationwide campaign to tell Congress to support state education budgets. I'm sure you've all seen, the fact that Congress has yet to appropriate another stimulus package to help states and small businesses deal with the financial fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we need Congress to act during the lame duck session between now and January, when state legislatures will start to come back. We need them to act to appropriate money to state and local governments to help fill those revenue shortfalls. And so here on the NAfME website, where you can find it, nafme.org/advocacy/grassroots action center, you can go to the Grassroots Action Center. If you go right to the page, it's here under Advocacy, Grassroots Action Center. You'll go down here and you can see our advocacy campaign software. This will allow you to essentially enter your information, fill out a short letter, which we have already populated a form letter for you. To fill that out, enter your info, and send off a letter to your elected official, your member of Congress, your senators, to ask them to act. It's very important that members of Congress hear that message between now and January. Otherwise, states are going to have to make very difficult decisions. Education will, in many states, inevitably be on the chopping block, and to the tune of millions of dollars, and we need to work to prevent that and to prevent any interruption of the education programs that are helping students get through this pandemic, right? And I think that, again, speaks to the importance of the stories pillar of the LALF, is that people are using music to come together while staying isolated. People are using music to cope with the social isolation that we find ourselves in, especially now when the cases are going up. So students need to continue to have access to this, to your services and your product, and Congress appropriating this federal stimulus is one of the ways that we can do that. So please go to our NAfME website, send a message to your member of Congress, and urge them to act.
Great, thank you, Matt. So that's our call to action, right? That's what we're here to do. So, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chiho and let us know.
If I may, real quick, Chiho, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
That right now we're running a nationwide campaign. As states start to convene in January and introduce budgets, and we'll start conducting state level campaigns. And so if once we reach that point in Baton Rouge, I'm sure NAfME and the LALF will work together on a state level campaign. So please be on the lookout for that as well. We need you to reach out to your members of Congress. We need you to reach out to your state legislator in Baton Rouge. Be a part of the political process. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So we need everybody to be involved here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. All right. So there we go. So now to Chiho, tell us about working with some of the other organizations that are a resource to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw in the chat that your fearless president, Scotty Walker, said that it takes a village. And I think that that's very approach that we take. Yes, we're a national organization, but by being in a national organization and not having any regional representation, we really rely on the regional and the local folks to work with us and guide us of our work. So in terms of the state of Louisiana, and I'm not sure if any of you was at the keynote where you saw the video of the event or with the First Lady, right after First Lady's keynote. And that was our organization kind of delivering the instruments. And we were able to tap into the First Lady's sort of a stop hour to come into the classroom and her talking about music being important to those young stars with the local TV cameras on, and that's an advocacy, right? It's something that's important. We have been in your great state of Louisiana. We've been very fortunate to work with two different organizations, Artist Corps New Orleans that I just put in the link before, as well as the New Orleans Arts Education Alliance, and they are really working very, of course, closely with the New Orleans teachers, but not only that, but they're really working in Baton Rouge and working with a policy and changing the policy there. So, and I don't know if you know, but they've actually, in the Department of Education, they put the having the arts education as one of the indicator of the quality of school indicator, report card. And that was a work of the New Orleans Arts Education Alliance. It's a great work that they do. And then also I wanted to share with you that Artist Corps New Orleans recently was able to put the resolution for the Orleans Parish School Board to say that music and arts is still important. And I just put the resolution document there that they put together. We had nothing to do with it. We just were so fortunate to know about it and then share with you on that. And it's the great work that they do. And it just means that there is the great work that's happening in your state, and then that can be shared with other people, and then also learn from other people, right? So perhaps that you might want to bring it to your own parish school board. And talk about that, especially right now in the COVID time. And it really takes so many levels. So it really starts with the school board, right? And then the state officials, like Matt talked about. And then, of course, in the federal level, we just also learned that Congressman Richmond, who is from New Orleans, just is now joined to President-elect Biden's transition team and advisory board. So, you actually, the federal is at least closer than some of us, I think, to some of you. I think it's a really great thing to know. And nationally speaking, there are, of course, the National Association for Music Education is a great resources for all of us, and we certainly are learning so much from them. And there are two other organizations, CMA Foundation, Country Music Association Foundation, who's been really great, and they've done a lot for the music teachers and the teachers resources. They do have music teacher sort of like Music Teacher of the Year kind of award type things that you should definitely apply for. And NAMM Foundation, National Association for Music Merchants, which is really the mothership to anything to do with music and the music industry. And of course, they have a huge music advocacy arm. And if you go to their website, they have a lot of webinar series that are free. And also they also do a recognition for the best community for music education recognition, which they just are going through right now. And we really encourage you to apply for that. We know that many of the districts get those, and it's a bragging right. But we've seen the property value goes up with that. Having my district as the national recognition to have a great music education, and that can be recognized in your school board, right? It's also like sometimes you have to brag about yourself in a national level to have the local people recognize your hard work. So I think those are really important things that you can do. And then you can also, really doing it for yourself, but also you're contributing the national level of the advocacy as well. So I think that's very important. And just shameless plug, Save the Music Foundation does also have an education resource, especially during this time. So please check it out. And also that, any of the social media campaign that you guys are working on, I think that there are something to be said about to align with some of the stuff that the national organizations are doing. Our hashtag happened to be Music Saves. We actually have been doing a big campaign with a TikTok, and we have now over 200 million views with that hashtag. So again, just there's a lot of way to join, and then not just say our hashtag, but use your hashtag, right? And again, just really the work of what you do in the locally can affect the national work and vice versa. So it's really important. And know that there are so many champions in your backyard, and you are the champion, and we would love to know about it, and we would love to brag it in the national level as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chiho. Just another thank you to both Matt and Chiho for their being such wonderful resources to LMEA and our advocacy force here. And so our next question to you is, what can you contribute to music advocacy in Louisiana? So I'm just going to put up a poll, and then to see which of the pillars most interests you. I'm going to finish my last one here because I lost it when I had to redo. And then we're going to close on up after that. Hopefully, if you had any questions, you were able to put that in the chat. I didn't see too many questions. I'm going to go ahead and publish this last poll to see which pillar interests you the most: advocacy, training, communication, stories, or government relations. We'd love to have your thoughts, your ideas, your connections, all of that as part of what we do in our advocacy leadership force. Please feel free to reach out, to us. My email's in our Louisiana Musician, but I will put it in the chat here for everybody so that you can contact me. Terriers.org. All right. So feel free to email me at any time, or, you can, of course, any of the LMEA members. And then put the chat. I see a lot of people in advocacy training, woohoo, and stories. So thank you all very much. I hope that just to kind of revisit our outcomes, that hopefully you will know the work that's been done by the LALF so far, and that you will contribute ideas as invested stakeholders in LMEA, and that you can make informed decisions about what you can do in your future participation for advocacy within LMEA. So thank you so much, Chiho and Matt. And I want to thank all the participants in the room. Thank you all for being here. I hope you guys have a great conference. I will see you all throughout the next few days. And then I have another session on Sunday where we're going to talk directly about what is written in our Louisiana documents regarding the mandates for music education and how you can use what's already in place to advocate for your programs. So again, any questions, just put them in the chat. Thank you all very much. And you guys have a great conference.
I dropped my email in the chat too for anybody who wants to reach out to me directly and has any questions. And for those of you who put advocacy training in the poll, join my session on Sunday. It's going to cover advocacy training for collegiates for new positions, but all those principles are applicable for veteran teachers as well. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Ginny, for having Chiho and I as part of this panel. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we can't wait to see what you guys do next.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.